This edition of Monocle on Saturday was first broadcast on the 21st of December 2024. Hello, I'm Georgina Godwin, broadcasting to you live from Midori House in London. This is Monocle on Saturday, the last Saturday before Christmas. It's very exciting. I have Charles Hecker with me. And Charles, as everybody knows, but I'm not supposed to publicly admit, is my favourite person in the studio with me. Charles, what are you going to be talking about?
Good morning, Georgina, and thank you. We're going to ask why Donald Trump pushed the government in the United States to the brink of a shutdown. We'll look at tragic events in Germany. We will then give everyone a Christmas earworm or two, and then see how well you can do on a 2024 news quiz.
Very exciting stuff. We're also going to hear from Ferdia Lennon, who's won the Bollinger Everyman Wodehouse Prize for comic fiction. So that's all coming up here on Monocle on Saturday with me, Georgina Godwin, and Charles Hecker. First, though, here's the news. The US Senate has voted to pass a budget deal to avert what would have been the first US federal government shutdown since 2019, hours after the House of Representatives approved the same legislation. The late-night vote capped a frantic week that saw President-elect Donald Trump and his billionaire ally Elon Musk defeat an initial bipartisan deal, throwing Congress into disarray. A driver rammed a car into a large crowd of revellers at a Christmas market in central Germany last night, killing at least 2 people and injuring more than 60 before he was arrested, authorities said. The attacker has been identified as a 50-year-old male doctor from Saudi Arabia with permanent residency in Germany, where he'd lived for almost 2 decades. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau looks set to lose power early next year after a key ally said he would move to bring down the minority Liberal government and trigger an election. New Democratic Party leader Jagmeet Singh, who's been helping keep Trudeau in office, said he would present a formal motion of no confidence after the chamber returns from a winter break on January the 27th. And a Renaissance-era raised passageway that connects Florence's Uffizi galleries to the Medici's former residence, Palazzo Pitti, reopens to the public today, offering spectacular views of the historic Italian city. The air tunnel hovering over the heart of the city was built in 1565, and it's been closed for renovations since 2016. And that's your Monocle Radio News. Wow, Charles, it's nearly there. We've almost got to the end, haven't we?
It's the long slide into Christmas. Just about.
It's lovely to have you back in the studio. Now, last time when you were here, we were talking about your book, Zero Sum, which is out. It's doing extremely well, I believe.
Thank you very much. I'm told that the book is in its second printing already, and sales are described as healthy.
Well, that's very good. So might I suggest it as a Christmas present for a Russophile?
It's a Christmas present for a Russophile. It's a Christmas present for anybody interested in current events. And, of course, books make great gifts.
They certainly do. Only please nobody give me a book. I just opened I don't know how many now my book posts for the week, and I'm very, very grateful. Thank you all the PRs and the authors that send them, but I'm done with book gifting, right?
I'm very happy to take the crumbs off of your book table, Georgina.
Charles, just in the headlines there, we were talking, of course, the top story is the US budget. I really needed explained to me in words of one syllable why the guy that owns Twitter is making US fiscal policy.
So, Georgina, you are part of a very large number of people who want to see the incident in Washington explained in layman's terms, including any American who was headed for the airport yesterday evening for Christmas travel because the government shutdown threatened the status of the TSA, the people who screen your baggage and make you walk through the X-ray scanners before you board an aircraft. And, of course, this is one of the busiest weekends for travel of the year. Here's what happens. In a development that, by the way, the Democrats are sort of dining out on and calling President-elect Trump vice president to President Elon Musk. So the government needed to pass a bill to stay open and extend its ability to borrow more money to finance the national debt. So there were three problems with this sort of periodic showdown in Congress, and that is that President-elect Trump didn't like the fact that the Democrats were participating in a consensus-driven bill to keep the government open and to allow it to spend more money. He just wanted the Dems out. That's number one. Number two, he wanted to bring the government down during Biden's closing weeks and tag him with a failure to keep the government ticking over. And then number three comes Elon Musk, who used his electronic platform X, formerly known as Twitter, to rail against this spending bill because to him it was full of waste. And we know that going forward, Musk is going to be head of the Department of Government Efficiency, and he found this spending bill to be incredibly inefficient.
And then what happened?
And what happened was the threats sort of worked, because what President-elect Trump and Elon Musk are doing now is they are bullying members of their own party. And they're saying, if you don't vote against this spending extension, we will primary you. We will make sure that you face opposition in your next election. And of course, the House of Representatives, which is where this bill went first, stands in its entirety for re-election every 2 years. So that is a significant threat. They rallied the MAGA troops. They said, get on the phone, call your Congress people, call your congressmen, call your congresswomen, tell them to vote against this. There were, in the end, 38 Republicans who broke with the line being put forward by President Trump and President-elect Trump and Elon Musk. And then ultimately on a third voting after the midnight deadline, the government stayed open to live another year. But what President Trump did not get was a victory over preventing something like this from happening during his own administration.
He also didn't get the debt cap raised, which is what he was looking for.
Right. I mean, he wants a 4-year term of smooth sailing where he doesn't have to confront the situation when he is sitting in the White House. And the reason why that's a concern is that even though the Republicans control both the Senate and the House of Representatives, in both chambers of the legislature, they have very, very thin margins. And what experience has told us in the most recent term of Congress is that all it takes is a few Republicans to defect on a bill and you can't pass legislation. So he wanted to avoid this happening at all over the next 4 years, but that did not happen.
Trouble, of course, north of the border too, in Canada.
That's right. So Justin Trudeau, the Prime Minister of Canada, is in very, very hot water. And it is almost certain now that when the Canadian government returns from its holiday break, there will be a vote of no confidence. The government led by Trudeau and his Liberal Party will collapse. And this was a process set in motion by the resignation of the Deputy Prime Minister and Finance Minister, Chrystia Freeland, one of, traditionally, Trudeau's most loyal deputies. And in her resignation, she wrote an absolutely scathing letter saying that the Canadian people know, essentially, when they're being had, and that the Prime Minister can no longer pretend to be acting in the nation's interests and to be serving Canadian voters. So she's out, and it was a massive political shock. What's happened now is one of the Liberal parties and one of Trudeau's coalition partners says that when they get back from the holiday break, they will withdraw from the coalition. That will, just by sheer mathematics, bring the coalition down. Canada will then go into immediate snap elections.
And Chrystia Freeland positioning herself, we think, for that top position.
Well, that's right. Chrystia Freeland has had a very interesting and very successful political trajectory in Canada, and that is that she ran after being the Moscow bureau chief for the Financial Times and a very successful, high-profile journalist. Chrystia Freeland returned to Canada and ran for Parliament for a seat in Toronto. And she has consistently and successfully risen through the political ranks to the position of Deputy Prime Minister. You would have to imagine that Ms. Freeland has ambitions to one day run Canada. She may have to wait for another turn of the wheel for the Liberals to come back into government. The Conservative Party going forward looks likely to come out of snap elections, at least in the position to form a government, if not without an outright majority.
Now, the other big story that we're covering in the news today is, of course, the tragedy at the Christmas market in Germany. They've arrested somebody for this. It's a 50-year-old Saudi Arabian doctor, although he's been living in Germany for many, many years. What more do we know?
That's right. So there is wall-to-wall coverage of this tragic incident across media and across the newspapers all over the world and here in the UK. This morning, there are 2 people dead. Very sadly, a toddler was killed in this attack where the driver of a vehicle just drove straight into the midst of a Christmas market, also injuring 68 additional people in the city of Magdeburg. Magdeburg is a city of about 230,000 people. It is the capital of the German state of Saxony-Anhalt. And so Chancellor Olaf Scholz will be visiting the scene of the attack shortly. Of course, he is another national leader who's deep in crisis, and his government has collapsed, waiting for elections to come in the new year. Police are investigating the details of the event, and it's still early days to get into motives. But there are messages of solidarity coming from around the world. Keir Starmer sent a message of sympathy to the people of Germany. So far, there are only 2 dead. We hope that none of the 68 injured turn into fatalities, but the rest of this is all under investigation and developing as we speak.
Did you know that Germany has an estimated 2,500 to 3,000 Christmas markets?
That's the thing, is that the Christmas markets in Germany, I mean, as somebody who's a regular visitor to Germany and particularly enjoy going there at Christmas time, German Christmas markets are breathtakingly beautiful, and they're very, very fun and entertaining and very delicious places to be for the gifts and for the food and for the drink that's on offer. They are a massive tourist draw. It is very difficult to squeeze yourself into a train or an airplane bound for Germany at this time of year. And countries around the world, including our own United Kingdom and the city of London, do their best to imitate the German Christmas market phenomenon. Monocle had a Christmas market this weekend that was very nice. There's a Christmas market look-alike on Trafalgar Square. There's a Christmas market look-alike along the south bank of the Thames in the London Bridge area. But really nothing beats the German Christmas market. Sadly, the crowds that they attract do present a sort of security risk. There was a Christmas market attack in 2016 in Berlin. And many Christmas markets around Germany have taken additional security measures in response to that elevated level of threat.
Yeah. At Christmas markets, you mentioned that they're delicious and lots of foodstuffs to be bought. Foodstuffs that you should not let your dog get hold of. So I'm taking this from Wales Online. I can't say we've ever looked at Wales Online in this programme before, but every newspaper will have its little spotlight. A number of food items you might have in your home this festive season that should never be given to your pets. So chocolate, I think we're all pretty familiar with that, highly toxic to dogs. Mince pies.
For the reasons that they contain, I believe. Exactly.
And for the same reason, dogs should not eat grapes, which is particularly troubling for me because we have this huge grapevine in our garden. So I'm constantly having to pick these grapes up. Christmas pudding, for the same reason. Long abandoned leftovers, I guess, because they're kind of mouldy and horrible. I mean,
if we wouldn't eat them, why would you give it to your dog?
Exactly. Skin and bones. Turkey skin's far too fatty for dogs. Eating greasy food like this can lead to pancreatic issues and obesity. Onions, garlic, shallots and leeks. The alum plant family, those are all alums, all poisonous to dogs. I had no idea about that.
There is no gesture really as satisfying and as kind to sort of hold your hand out with a morsel in it towards a dog who, of course, is looking up with these, saucer eyes and sort of begging and sort of licking its chops and in anticipation of something slathered in gravy. And it's a wonderful thing to sort of share with your pet and with man's best friend. But we do have to be careful. The last thing you want to do is make your dog sick when all you really want to do is try to make your dog happy with a little sort of human treat.
Well, I have to tell you something that happened. My partner, as you might know, is a baker, an artisanal baker, and he spent a couple of days putting together some beautiful, beautiful Stollen, which we've been wrapping up and giving as gifts to people. And there was a little pile of them that we left last night. I was going to bring you one today, Charles. Mike spent, a couple of days putting these together. There's rum, there's marzipan, there's fruit. They are just delicious. The house smells divine. This morning, when I got up, just the paper. I'm afraid.
No.
The stolen Stollen.
Oh, God. Bella.
Naughty girl.
Yeah. Did she have a little bit of confectioner sugar around her whiskers this morning when you woke up?
And she looked so guilty.
Poor thing. Well, Bella's benefit is the rest of our sort of demise. That's a great shame. I did see the Stollen on Mike's Instagram account. They looked absolutely scrumptious and delicious. Mike is probably one of the only people who can face the public today and say, the dog ate my homework.
Exactly. Now, you're going to have a vegan Christmas.
That's right. I am very graciously accepting an invitation to Christmas with some friends that I traditionally spend the holidays with. And they are a vegetarian household with periodic vegan guests. And so there's catering for everyone except for the meat eaters. And I have to tell you that genuinely, the Christmas feast is delicious. It's varied. It's healthy. You don't feel particularly, well, I was going to say, until you get to dessert, you don't feel particularly stuffed and bloated. But then dessert is its usual sort of orgy of chocolate things. There are no dogs in the house, so everything and everybody is safe. And it is the one day for me to feel at the same time sort of decadent and virtuous by not eating meat and enjoying myself enormously.
However, if you were going to eat meat, the New York Times has a recipe for roast pork that they say is fail-safe.
This is a miso glazed pork that looks, and food photography is a wonderful thing because it makes everything look really, really delicious, and it makes you just want to jump into your laptop and dig in on everything that you eat. But as we look for recipes to decorate the Christmas table and to sort of decorate our Christmas plates, we get worried about being on display and about getting everything right and making sure the meat isn't dry. And this is a sort of occupational hazard with turkey. Of course, the worst kept secret is that turkey is almost always dry and nobody really likes it very much. A miso glazed pork roast with all of these sort of roasted onions around the side of this just gigantic slab of meat looks amazing.
It does look absolutely gorgeous. Well, let's talk about pork in its pre-roast form, specifically a large Gloucester old spot pig who is now called Glorious Exploits. That's because naming rights come as part of the award for the Bollinger Everyman Wodehouse Prize for Comic Fiction, which was set up in 2000. It seeks to recognise the funniest new novels that best evoke the spirit of P.G. Wodehouse and his work. Well, along with the chance to name a pig, the winner receives a Jeroboam of Bollinger champagne, a case of more champagne, and a complete set of the Everyman's Library P.G. Wodehouse collection. And this year, the winner is Ferdia Lennon, who wrote the book Glorious Exploits, and he's on the line now. Ferdia, congratulations to you.
Oh, thank you so much, Georgina. Thanks for having me on.
Tell us about the book.
Yeah, not a problem. So the novel Glorious Exploits is a work of historical fiction. It's set in 412 BCE Sicily, Syracuse to be exact. And Athens has tried and failed to conquer the island of Sicily, or specifically to capture the city of Syracuse. And they failed so badly that there are actually thousands and thousands of Athenian prisoners of war who are thrown into an open-air quarry just outside the city of Syracuse because there's no prison large enough to fit them. And
it's extraordinary. That bit reading about them in the quarry was just, really quite all the sort of rats and everything else going on.
Yeah, that's it. And this is all from the historical record. And then what we have from Plutarch is this strange little tidbit that some of these Athenian prisoners of war actually survived by quoting lines from Euripides' plays. Because even though Athens was this, the hated enemy, the invader, there was a deep love and respect for Athenian drama, especially the work of Euripides. So my novel is about two theater-obsessed Syracusan potters, Lampo and Gelon, who descend into this quarry looking for their fix of the latest Euripides plays. Well, actually, they don't realize there's a whole new Euripides play, Trojan Women, which has just been released before the invasion. And they get it into their mind to put on a double bill of Medea and Trojan Women with an all-star cast of Athenian prisoners.
I mean, it's wild. It's a wild story, isn't it? How did it come to you?
It came from, first of all, just a deep love of the classics. I studied history and classics in university. I've always loved Greek, Roman history as well, but probably especially fascinated by the Greek theater, the plays, the history. And I knew I wanted to write about this in some format. I wanted to write about the Peloponnesian War. I love Thucydides. What that might be, I had no idea until I read the Plutarch's Life of Nicias, about the recitations of Euripides to stay alive. And I just knew I knew that it was compelling to me. I was pretty sure I could do something with that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and everybody seems to agree that this is a fantastic book. It's a Sunday Times bestseller. It was adapted for Radio 4. It was on Between the Covers in the book club on BBC Two. It was the winner of the Waterstones debut fiction prize, as well as now the Bollinger Everyman Wodehouse Prize for comic fiction. So, I mean, you have won all of these prizes. This is the only one that actually gives you a pig, though. Have you met the pig?
I have met the pig. So there's a little snap of me and Glorious Exploits. But yeah, it's what a prize. You know what I mean? I'm hoping that Glorious Exploits doesn't end up in a miso glaze.
Yeah, that would be too cruel, really.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I've just got my Wodehouse, and I didn't realize quite how prolific Wodehouse was. So I have a mountain now of Wodehouse to read over Christmas, which I'm really looking forward to.
And a lot of champagne to get you through too.
And a lot of champagne, exactly.
Ferdia, thank you very much indeed. That's Ferdia Lennon, who is the winner of the Bollinger Everyman Wodehouse Prize for comic fiction with his book Glorious Exploits. And if you're looking for a Christmas present, you would be advised that this could possibly be the one. It's erudite, it's elegant, and it's also very funny.
Just like us.
Well, maybe you. But are you erudite? Because there's a quiz that's going to prove that, isn't there?
That's right. So we're going to look at the FT right now. And among all of the sort of top 10 lists and year-end lists that come out this time of year across the media, the FT has got the Life and Arts Quiz of the Year. And Georgina, it is genuinely from the sublime to the ridiculous. And it is a quiz of your knowledge of historic events and modern events, things that happened this year and things that happened years ago. And it's one of these things that sort of jogs your memory. And it is, I stopped on one of the questions that I do know the answer to and one of the questions that I don't know the answer to. Should we have a go, Georgina?
Absolutely.
What do you think?
Let's do it.
Okay, so question number 6 here has a picture of Dua Lipa drinking a Diet Coke. And the question is that Dua Lipa posted a TikTok video showing the singer making a customized Diet Coke cocktail in a Texan eatery. The ingredients with which she paired the fizzy drink caused widespread revulsion when her video went viral. What are the ingredients? So the first choice is pickle juice and jalapenos, ice cream and chocolate sauce, lemonade and limes, or egg yolk and protein shake. And remember, all of this is being mixed into a Diet Coke. Any guesses, Georgina?
Well, I do know the answer to this one, and I'm kind of surprised that I do, actually. But
in that case, we can leave it to everyone else to guess and to try to jog their memory. I have to tell you that this does not cause widespread revulsion with me. The ingredients that Dua Lipa mixed into this drink are delicious on their own. They're delicious combined. I haven't yet copied her and put this into a Diet Coke, but I think it might actually taste pretty good. Georgina, on the erudite plank of all of this is one that I do not know the answer to, and I'm hoping that you, as the more literate and literary among us, will know. And this is question 11. The phrase, truth is stranger than fiction, derives from which poetic masterpiece, unfinished when its writer died 200 years ago? This is embarrassing that I don't know the answer to this, but can you enlighten me?
it's Byron.
There you are, Chris. It is the first answer. Lord Byron. It came up in a poem called Lord Byron's Don Juan. And the line is, "'Tis strange, but true, for truth is always strange, stranger than fiction."
Well, yeah, and there's so many great questions. I like the one about that portal where that was a live video portal linking New York and another city and allowing people to interact with each other, but in one city it had to be shut down because people kept exposing their breasts.
Exactly. Never trust the public to take the high road. You're right. There was a video portal in Times Square. Between New York and I believe it was. Why do I want to think it was Sydney?
No, this was in fact the city where it had to be closed down was Dublin. It was the Irish behaving badly.
Yeah, and people just sort of keep flashing each other on these portals because, like, what else are you going to do other than sort of get your kid off?
Now, the other big sort of competition that happens this week is who's going to be number one for Christmas. And it's certainly in this country, it's a really big thing. And it looks like we are going back 30 odd years. Looks like it's going to be Wham! And Last Christmas.
This is really remarkable. So for anybody who wants to avoid a Christmas earworm, if you don't already have one, this is a story to avoid. But the Times takes us for a stroll through great Christmas songs and asks sort of what are the ingredients of a great Christmas song, and then gives us their list of great Christmas songs. And Georgina, what is sort of surprising, shocking, and slightly pleasing about this article is that when you start flicking through the list, how many of them you immediately begin singing in your head. And it starts with Last Christmas by Wham, which I think you're forecasting is going to be the number one this year.
Absolutely. And it gives us the background to this and about what was happening, where it was being filmed and all the rest of it. So tell us more.
That's right. So Wham went to a town in the Swiss Alps called Saas-Fee. And the reason why they went there is that it's a very, very, very high altitude and they needed snow to shoot the video. So they went to this town that was sufficiently high enough to have snow on the ground at the time that they were shooting the video. What I do know is that a friend of mine, a colleague's wife, who is a travel writer, visited this town called Saas-Fee. She was just there. And they have a karaoke booth now at the top of this mountain at the end of a ski lift in the middle of this sort of ski resort. And you can go into this karaoke booth, grab a microphone, and sing Last Christmas as if you were a member of the group Wham! And perhaps if everyone went up there and ran into the karaoke booth, they could help push it to be the UK Christmas number one.
That's hilarious. I want to go there.
Right. I mean, you think you go there for skiing, but actually what you're doing is you're going there to go singing.
Tell us the story behind Santa Baby by Eartha Kitt.
Well, so, this is clearly a Christmas song for people with sort of Christmas time daddy issues.
Should we just have a little blast of it to remind us? Should we have a bit of Santa Baby?
Santa baby, I want a yacht, and really that's not a lot. Been an angel all year, Santa baby, so hurry down the chimney tonight.
And of course, the thing about that song is it's very sexy.
It is very sexy. And this is from 1953, which you don't normally think of as a very sexy year. But there had never been a Christmas song with those sorts of overtones at the time. And who better to sing it than 1953's biggest sex symbol, Eartha Kitt? And you can just hear her sort of that honeyed, rich, alluring voice coming across. And, Christmas is probably not the easiest thing to make sexy. And Santa Claus, isn't exactly a calendar pinup when it comes to sort of good looks and things like that. I mean, we'll take all the presents and we'll put out a bit of milk and cookies. But, the idea of a sexy Santa, well, takes a particular point of view. But the song To This Day is one of the songs that you will hear at parties as background music in department stores, on the radio. And the great thing about this list in the Times is that several of the songs are indeed sort of classics, you might say, by current definitions, and still enormously popular.
Absolutely. Well, I think out of all of them, Last Christmas is probably my favourite. So we're going to do you all a service and leave that as your earworm for Christmas, because that's all for Monocle on Saturday. Thanks very much to our producers, Desiree Bandley Lee, and our studio engineer, Flynn Simons. Many thanks to my guest, Charles Hecker, also to Ferdia Lennon. And Monocle on Saturday will return next weekend. I'm Georgina Godwin. Thank you for listening.